I'm George Ketchel, and I want to share a reflection with you about Saint Teresa Benedicta of the Cross. She is my modern hero of a saint, and I want to tell you why. She was born Edith Stein in 1891, and in a place of Europe which is currently modern-day Poland. However, when she was born, it was actually part of the German Empire at the time. Now, 1891 is a period when the Second Industrial Revolution was just getting going. And so there was a lot of things happening. Technology-wise, electricity had just come on the scene. Industry-wise, you saw a lot of manufacturing, the advent of like Ford Motor Company, cars, all this stuff was happening as she was coming of age. And so it was a really interesting moment of modern era when people were very hopeful and excited about the advancements and really confused about how to reconcile that with the way the world used to be. Edith was born into a very devout Jewish family and grew up practicing, very devout, and knew all of her history. What's interesting is by the time she turned 14, she had journaled and said, given the state of the modern era, I don't see why I need to pray to a God. And this is usually in the biographies where most people say she became an atheist. I look at it and I say she's a 14-year-old teenager growing up with incredible advancement and trying to make sense of the two worlds, the world of what she grew up as a child and the world that's being presented to her. That's this modern pearl of adventure and excitement. She's a very, very smart young lady and known for her ability to do well in academics. So by the time she was 20, she enrolled in university to study German and history. And history is a really important part for her. So she's constantly kind of pursuing, how does this fit together? And at the same time, caught up in the modern era at the time with progress. One of the big worldwide movements at this time when she's in university is suffrage. That's when women were trying to gain the voice, the right to be heard in political circles and actually be able to vote. Edith was very outspoken on this and really emphatic about relationships and how humanity was going to continue to progress for the benefit of humanity. Well, when she enrolled in university, she discovered philosophy. And this became the tool that she started to use to discern and try to really kind of filter out truth and to discover how these things were to fit together. While she was at university as well, World War I broke out. So she finished up her initial degree in German and history, took a class on nursing, and then ended up at a field hospital in Austria serving the infirmed during World War I. This was an up-close and personal encounter with the humanity of the modern world, which was pretty anti-human. The disregard for individuals, the social revolutions of putting other groups of people down or eliminating people, this was a very real challenge to her in her pursuit for truth. She did leave after a year of work at the hospital, went back to the university and submitted her doctoral thesis on the problem of empathy. This was a phenomenal doctoral thesis. It won her a lot of accolades. She ended up getting her PhD in philosophy and beginning to establish a name for herself as a great critical thinker who was going beyond just the normal, tangible realities of this supposed great time of advancement. She ended up with her doctorate in philosophy, and as time progressed, suffrage was successful in Germany. Women had the right to vote. However, as a woman, she was not allowed to teach at the university level. The best she was allowed was to be an assistant to the professors that were there. She made the most of it, and the professors respected her enough that they allowed her to continue her work and publish. But it was the, again, reality of the time. So much progress had been made, and yet not so much. At this point, she was introduced to Catholicism, mostly through her studies in philosophy, and she was critically testing it and really examining it to see if there was anything that she could glean from Catholicism. And to her surprise, she started recognizing Christ in his suffering. This would happen in different instances. One particular moment, she was at a church and she noticed a woman praying in front of the altar. And there was, in her words, a transcendence that she could identify with. Again, thinking back to her philosophy of empathy, and it started resonating with her. She ended up spending the evening at some close friend's house, and she was looking for a book she saw in their library. It was the biography of Saint Teresa of Avila. She picked it up, began reading it, and could not put it down. She read the whole book in a single night. The next morning, she said, "This is truth." And what it was is Saint Teresa of Avila's ability to communicate Christ's love and how it brought meaning to her everyday existence and life. This captivated Edith, and 6 months later, she came into the Catholic Church. She was so enthralled by both St. Teresa of Avila and the Catholic faith at that point, she wanted to immediately join a Carmelite convent. Through obedience to her spiritual directors and the church, it took 12 years before she could actually make her first vows. And when she did, she took the name Teresa for St. Teresa of Avila, Benedicta, in honoring her German roots through St. Benedict, of the cross, because she saw in the cross Christ's converting love, not only of herself, but of all of her relationships, especially those who were persecuting her. She professed her final vows during a time that was quickly followed by World War II. She was at a convent in Holland, which was actually being occupied by Germany. And in retaliation towards the church, because the bishops had been speaking out against Nazism, they decided to deport every person of Jewish descent. They raided the convent, not only took Teresa, but also her younger sister, who had converted to Catholicism and joined the Carmelites as well. Put them on a train for Auschwitz. Unlike some of our typical understandings where people would be then put into the camp, this train with Jewish people of Jewish descent were marked immediately for the gas chambers. So Teresa and her sister got off the train, walked across the platform, and were immediately taken to the gas chambers to be martyred. On the platform, somebody overheard Teresa telling her sister, "We go for our people." She had a conviction of love that gave her the peace to offer her gift to those who were persecuting her. I believe St. Teresa of Benedicta of the Cross is a great intercessor for our day and time today. A lot of the things that she experienced, I see that we are experiencing as well. I encourage you to look her up, as well as look her up under her secular name, Edith Stein. There's a wealth of incredible understanding and knowledge, and it's a beautiful conversion story. This could be you.